Fine, you could have carried on. So anyway, we are back. So what happened there? If anybody was, I hope you come back to us. That was just all my power went. So I couldn't even. It's a big mistake. I couldn't even go on anywhere to look for Amy's number to call her. And oh my gosh. Anyway, so that was stressful.
And I just sort of sat here and thought, well, Maria's gone, so
yeah,
I guess I'll just talk about YouTube to you guys.
I hope I don't go again. I hope I don't go again.
It's fine.
Yeah, but it's interesting because the power came back. So I tried several times. And yeah, James, where are you when I need you? See, if James had been here, it would have all carried on. I'm sorry to do that, Amy. You were brilliant. We were talking about YouTube ads.
Oh, wow.
And you were saying that speakers can actually use YouTube ads. So what's put me off in the past is that I worry that it's going to be very expensive.
It's not expensive at all, no.
Is it not?
No, it's actually one of the most cost-effective forms of digital marketing you can invest in. So the beauty of YouTube, and I'm sure that there's people watching us now that have invested in social ads, for example, and other forms of digital marketing, such as PPC or display or mobile. And YouTube is I should just tell the price, really, shouldn't I? Let's just come down to price.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, let's just go down to price. So YouTube works. Let's talk about TrueView advertising and TrueView skippable advertising. So these are the classic ones that you get and you can skip them after 5 seconds. The TrueView advertising where you can't skip, those are quite expensive. You're talking at least around about £10,000 investment for those. Yeah, it's the big ones. And you generally only get the big brands that do that. Whereas the skippables, they're done on what we call a PPV or a pay-per-view basis.
Like a pay-per-click, it's a pay-per-view.
Exactly. And then you'll also have a pay-per-click attributed to that as well if someone clicks on the link and goes to your website. So the PPV on average is around about 5p to 8p per view.
Oh, that's all right.
Exactly. But not just that, the amount of time that counts as a view is 30 seconds.
I skip way before 30 seconds if I don't want to see an advert.
Exactly. So whereas traditionally, say on things like Facebook or Instagram or even LinkedIn, I believe a view counts as you seeing half of the advert for 1 second. And so that's just a scroll. So, so in comparison, it's a huge cost saving. And when you think about it, like sort of 5p per view for someone to watch 30 seconds of your content, that's a huge amount of content. And as you say, quite rightly, most people do skip before the 30-second mark. So a lot of those views are going to be free.
That sounds really interesting. So tell me, is there a minimum spend?
There's not a minimum spend, no. But obviously you want to be able to have some worth to you and worth your time. If you're going to spend all that amount of effort setting up the ads or even asking an agency to do it, you need to put some money behind it. But yeah, even if you think about £100, how many views that's going to get you at 5p each? And to be honest, in the majority of cases, you could still get targeted views for around about 2-3p. But that's where we come in.
Okay. All right. So okay, let's talk about, say somebody's deciding they don't want to do it themselves and they do want to bring you in, and they've got how much of investment would they need for it to be worth your while, and where are your fees on top of that? I imagine they are.
Yeah, so it's really, really transparent. So what you would have is you'd have a setup fee for setting up the account and creating all of the campaigns, uploading all the videos, etc., etc. You would have a monthly management fee that would depend on the amount of videos you have and the amount of time that we're spending on it. And then you'd have your fee that went to Google that actually literally pays for your ads. So we don't touch that fee. So you know that money is going directly to Google. Nothing's being siphoned off. Nothing's going anywhere. And that's just for ad. That's your ad money.
Perfect. Fantastic. And what kind of return can you expect? Or is that a really impossible question for you to answer?
Yeah, that's completely impossible. I think if you were talking about sort of your traditional search marketing or your PPC marketing, you could give an idea of ROIs based on, say, product cost and reverse engineering it back. But because YouTube is predominantly used for brand awareness advertising, or people may be using it to test other forms of advertising they're using, say, in outdoor campaigns or radio ads, that's where the true value lies, not in a sort of a direct ROI. What I will say is a really good example. You've had the cases, a really, really old one. A few years ago, Kmart ran a Super Bowl ad. And you know how much Super Bowl ads, that's millions and millions of dollars for 30 seconds of time. They ran the same ad on YouTube, and the YouTube created over 300% increase in turnover for Kmart, whereas the Super Bowl ad didn't have the same effect. So that's what the sort of thing that you can be expecting in some cases.
Maybe it was the wrong target market for the Super Bowl ad. Maybe it's the wrong people.
Maybe. I mean, I've written a great article on it if you'd like to know about the whether you should be investing in YouTube or the Super Bowl. Should you have $10 million to throw away?
Yeah, it's in my savings account, of course. Yeah,
exactly.
So tell me, okay, here's one for those of us who are a bit reluctant. How can you get some free views?
Oh, okay. So you use Amy's tried and tested video format for getting free views. So you remember I said that if they skip before 30 seconds, the view is free. This is 30 seconds or the length of the video. So you can't be clever and make a 25-second video. That's not how it works. You'll still be charged. So the way that I work it is you make your video 32 seconds long, and you communicate all of your content within 27 to 28 seconds. And then from the 28-second mark to the 32-second mark, you will just have a logo or your website or a still image that encourages the person to say, look, this video is over, skip, encourages the person to skip, and then hopefully they would have seen all of your content and still that view would have been free for you. And that tends to work. And in some cases, I've got 100% of the views paid for. That again in free views.
Oh, you're so naughty.
I know.
But then, of course, that begs the question: how do you actually make the content so compelling that they stay beyond the 5 seconds? Because, not being funny, and it's incredible how targeted the videos, the adverts are, but when I'm going onto YouTube to watch a video, I want to get to the video that I want to watch. So it has to be something really, really compelling that grabs my attention. Have you got any tips on that, or do you get involved in that side too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there is a really good if you go to the Reflect Digital website, there is an article that I've written on YouTube advertising and how YouTube's changed after COVID. And within that article, there is something called the ABCD principles that are written by Google on best practice when it comes to making a YouTube video. What videos are successful are completely dependent, really. You have your base foundation and what tends to work and how. And obviously, you've hit the nail on the head. You want to grab someone within those first 5 seconds. You want to encourage them to watch the whole way through, and your targeting is really important as well. So, as you've said, you don't want to be putting these videos out to people that aren't going to be interested. When you first start making YouTube videos and you first start doing YouTube advertising, yes, there is going to be a sense of trial and error. Let's try this. Let's try a few demographics. Let's try a few audiences and see what works. See who's interested. After that, you can be very, very refined to it. You can target certain age groups, certain genders, certain areas of the country, whether they have children or not, what they last watched, if they're interested, if they really like Beyonce, if they recently got married, those sort of things, which then make it more likely that you're only going to go after the people that actually want to watch your content. When it comes to making a YouTube video or specifically a YouTube ad, the one thing I would say is the number one rule is to keep it simple and to not try and shove loads and loads of messaging in someone's face. This really is potentially the first time they're seeing you, so let's not overwhelm the potential customer. Let's keep it nice and simple, keep the messaging uniform and on brand, And even if that person skips after the 5 seconds, you've got it there in their mind, even on some subconscious level.
Fantastic. And actually, this sounds to me like really excellent advice, whatever content you're creating, doesn't it? I mean, you could apply that to any of your videos, whether they're ads or not. You could apply it to your written form. So I'm thinking that this is brilliant advice for any content creator.
Well, thank you. I can only say thank you. The only thing, the thing that we're finding that's emerging, and it has come from as the millennial population has come through, and then Gen Z as well, particularly with the rise of short form video and TikTok, is that people's capacity and attention has lowered. That's not to say that obviously there's load of video content on YouTube that still is very highly watched, that is long, but that is something that to think more about when you're creating your content, definitely.
So what is the attention span? So if you're creating content that maybe isn't an ad, but you're creating content, you're creating some videos, maybe some how-to videos or advice videos or whatever, and you're putting them on YouTube, what's the length? Is there a sweet spot?
Not really. It depends. Like everything, it depends. It depends on the industry. It depends what they're looking for. It depends what generation you're targeting. And I mean, as a very, very, very broad rule of thumb, you would find the younger that you're targeting, the shorter the content should be. But that doesn't apply, because we've seen sort of the Gen Z will watch longer content for, say, how-to videos. And we've seen that quite a lot in the renovation market, where a lot of renovation and DIY, a huge proportion of the money spent on DIY projects within COVID was with the younger generations, and then watching that content on YouTube and on how to do up their houses. So yeah, I wouldn't be putting out an essay in video form is all I could say.
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because when I'm looking for a how-to video, if I've started using a new piece of software or I'm stuck on something, I will put the title in and I'll look on YouTube and I'll actually choose the shortest one, because there are some people who absolutely waffle and pad things out. You know, well, they'll take a new product and they're taking out the packaging and they're telling you what's wrong and how it's like, oh, for goodness sake, just get to the point. So I actually choose. So maybe I'm young at heart, you see.
I mean, there was a rule a few years ago with regard to the monetization of videos, and they changed it so that I believe you could only have a video that was monetized if it was only over 10 minutes long. So therefore, you suddenly found a lot of video content from YouTubers that was sort of going over the 10-minute mark, purely because it changed how they earn their buck. So that's something to consider.
So that's interesting now. We didn't have it in the original questions, but actually I'm now curious about monetization. So can anybody monetize their videos on YouTube, or do you have to have hundreds of thousands of subscribers and downloads and views? And
no, you don't have to. The thing that I would always say to people about monetizing their videos is you're not going to earn a lot of money. The people that earn the money, the people that you see on Instagram, the people that you see have Lamborghinis outside their house and they've made it all on YouTube, that is the top 0.0%. And yes, people do make a good living from it. Yes, they do make monetization from ads, but it's not something that I would say, yeah, anyone can go and do very, very easily.
Okay, all right. I'll cross that off the list then. Fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to kill anyone's dreams here, but I'm just being realistic.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So, and also because obviously we're running a little bit later because I had a break in the middle and had a bit of a rest. So I'm going to finish on one last question for you, which is, what would you say, because I think this would be helpful, very helpful to me and anybody else listening who's wanted to make content for YouTube. What's the easiest way to create content for YouTube?
Just to do it. We all have incredibly powerful smartphones now.
Yes.
And that contain dozens of apps that can edit and create sound and voiceover. And so really, I find that the main issue with people creating content is nothing to do with the ability in terms of the equipment, but more the ability in terms of one's own confidence.
Yeah. And I also think you get better over time, because if I look back at some of my early videos, they're really cringeworthy. And not that some of the later ones aren't as well, but there have been, sort of glimpses of improvement. And you do get a bit more relaxed in front of the camera and live streaming until your power goes out.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd say that. I mean, I've been in a situation where I've had to use sort of a couple of wine boxes as a tripod and get an old light in, and you don't know when the video is created. So it's just about getting out there and doing it, because you just don't know. There was a video that I made just before Christmas for LinkedIn that I edited on my phone. And it was just made up of little clips that I'd taken on my phone here and there and everywhere. And it ended up with 700,000 views and 18,500 comments. Yeah.
Whoa.
So it's nothing to do with sort of the equipment that you're using, but just get out there and put out content is what I would say. And I think it's great that you find the past stuff cringeworthy, because that shows you've grown.
Yeah. Actually, I've got one final question now, unless we get any more in the comments, and which is, should we be subtitling our videos?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the main problems we see actually in videos is when people upload, if they're doing advertising or even just uploading videos, is not paying a good attention to the title and the description and the tags within the video. Think of it as a website, think of it as SEO. It's the same thing. That title should contain the keywords, and it should show your audience what that video is. The same with your description. Use it as the same way that you would your website. You can't just be sort of uploading something, not putting a description, not putting tags in. Spend some good time on it.
I actually meant captions. I should have said the word captions, shouldn't I?
Oh, captions. Okay, yeah. The beauty of YouTube and captions is, so when you upload a video to YouTube, you can go into your YouTube studio, and as long as the video has been there for a few hours, YouTube would have created something automatically, which is called an SRT file. And an SRT file is essentially your captions. It's what pops up when the sound is off. And the reason an SRT file is important is it's not only important for people watching without sound, which is a lot of people. It's important for those with disabilities that can't necessarily hear you very well, but it's also important for your SEO as well, and really showing Google, showing YouTube what the content of your video is. Now, I say YouTube automatically creates this SRT file for you. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
You do have to go in and you do have to correct things, and it does, and you do read it and think, why did you think I said that? But once corrected, you can actually download that SRT file, and then if you're putting the video anywhere else, say your website or Facebook or other platforms, you can take that SRT file and upload it to those platforms as well. So it's really useful.
Use it as a transcript as well, isn't it?
We use it as a transcript as well. What can be done, what I used to do is, if you say you're doing a very long video, say you've got that's maybe over 10 minutes long, you look at that SRT file, you've got to go in and correct it, and honestly, you can't find the strength. There are people online on platforms such as Fiverr that will go through it for you, create the SRT file on your behalf, and they'll charge you per minute or the length of the video.
Perfect. So what happens when I say my name, Friendzone, it gets translated by the transcriber as a Friendzone.
Oh no!
I'm in
That's not good.
I'm in the friend zone. I think that's quite funny. Amy, you've been an absolute star, and you've also gone through something we haven't gone through in the, I think, 2.5 years we've been doing this. You've gone through a power cut where you've been left all on your own to entertain, and you stayed. You didn't
I stayed and
abandon
entertained.
ship.
I was thinking, well, I better talk about YouTube. If not, I could sing. Who knows?
Yeah, that would be good. But actually, I do want one final tip from you before we share how people can get in touch. I'd like a tip from you about speaking, because obviously you speak as well. So what tip could you give to speakers about speaking?
Always be authentic. I would say that's the most important thing. Authenticity comes across in spades. Always be authentic, and because then even if you've got someone who's a similar speaker in the same sort of space, you'll never compete with them.
Yeah, absolutely true. Absolutely true. Brilliant advice. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you, you are on LinkedIn, and your LinkedIn name is Amy Hopper. So that's easy, right?
Yes, yep, and on Instagram as well. But yes,
fantastic. And I cannot thank you enough for dealing with all sorts today. I'm going to need a cup of tea after this and a lie down. Thank you, Amy. You've been a superstar.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for everybody who stayed with us. And we're now going to, if I can find it, we're going to play the closing video. Thank you very much.
Bye.